You've tuned in to the show that celebrates life and all that makes it special. Sports, music, you, and of course, an ice-cold beer or a glass of your favorite wine. And now, today's story.
Welcome to Life, Sports, Music, and Beers, Part 2 of our two-part series, Sports, Money, and Kids. In this episode, we'll discuss NIL, short for Name, Image, and Likeness, the new regulation that's taking college sports by storm and how it can affect your kids at every level from youth leagues to high school and all the way through college. So if you have a child who has an interest in sports, you don't want to miss this. And now, here's Rick, Paul, and yours truly as we discuss NIL and its effects on kids and families. Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of Sports and Money. I'm here with my co-host, Rick the Vanilla Gorilla. He's got his Detroit, is that Detroit Red Wings?
Oh yeah, it's my Winter Classic Red Wings jersey. Yep.
Look at that, man. Unbelievable. And Paul Anthony from St. Louis and Missouri. What is that?
Missouri Tigers.
The Tigers, huh? Yeah.
I figured I should have wore this yesterday when we were doing it. So,
doesn't matter, dude.
And it's all right because it's close enough of Block M. We know
it's all good.
The real one looks like, so that's cool.
It's all good. So listen, we're going to pick up where we left off, guys.
On your hat.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yep.
What about the hat? What about the hat?
No, I said he's got a Block M, so that's all I care about. It's almost the same colors. I'm good.
I was going to say that looks like a Michigan type of thing.
It really does.
Yeah.
You guys got to get your shit together. I'm not.
This one's for Kyle.
There you go.
Oh there my God! All right. I got you.
Kyle would be happy with that.
Sorry, his family.
4-year education, my ass. Are you kidding me?
Hey.
Anyway, guys, so listen, we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're talking about this is real important. So if you're a parent and you got kids in high school or kids that are really talented and you think they have a shot to, at least get into college and get a degree and maybe perhaps move on to being a pro or something. If you have banked on that, you might want to listen to this. This is all about something called NIL, name, image, and likeness. I'm going to let Rick explain this, but before I do, let's take a look at we showed a clip at the end of the last segment that we did. Let's show this clip again so you guys can get a general idea. And then Rick is going to educate us. Okay, here we go.
Compensation for name, image, and likeness, or NIL, doesn't involve colleges paying players, but does allow athletes to benefit from their accomplishments, as the schools, conferences, TV networks, and others already are.
NIL, for the benefit of those watching, are the rights to exploit an athlete's name, image, and likeness. And the payment for those rights doesn't really come from the schools.
And that's one of the reasons these schools should not be upset about NIL. It doesn't come out of their pocket. It's like you're making the players happy and you don't have to pay anything.
No institutional involvement, no direct or even indirect money from the colleges.
Hey folks, welcome back. You just saw that clip. If you are not familiar with NIL, name, image, and likeness, you're going to want to hear this. Our resident expert, sports expert, Rick, is going to take over it. He's basically going to give us dummies an explanation of this. And then Paul's going to chime in because he doesn't know that much about it, but he knows a hell of a lot more than me. All right. I'm just going to give you my point of view from a fan, just from someone who's, my God, this is like, what are you kidding me? So anyway, Rick, take it away.
Setting me up to fail. Geez.
No kidding. Right. So name, image, likeness, guys. Basically, if you remember at all, how these guys were getting violations all the time for going out and do card signings and stuff like that without permission and getting paid for it. Name, image, likeness means that they can, with their name or image, such as the video game, if anybody remembers the Ed O'Bannon story, that whole nine, that's how this all opened up. They can get paid outside deals, not through the university, mind you. Outside deals, like if I own a car dealership and I want the best player from Ohio State to represent my car dealership, I can pay him a contract for his name, image, or likeness to sell cars. That's basically what it is. It's free enterprise. It's basically the kids can represent themselves and get paid on their success for the university or being an athlete. The university itself can't pay them. The NCAA can't pay them. So it's everything outside of that. If, let's say you had a great business model or plan and a business came to you for your business model or plan and they paid you a contract, that's exactly what this is. That's as broken down as I can get it for you, Ralph.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, college athletes are not allowed to have agents, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Which again, here comes the nightmare of all of this, because when you're 18 or 19-year-olds making 1.2 million for the year, you think that boy knows how to do taxes?
No.
Okay. How many tax problems are we going to run into right off the jump on these kids? Because that was a great point I heard the other day, and they're absolutely right. You know, if mommy and daddy aren't very business astute and they don't hire a financial guy like we were talking about, how many tax evasions are we going to get out of this? How many Willie Nelson's going to be running for the border on this one?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to get these 18, 19-year-olds getting back taxed left and right for this stuff.
So, Rick, hold on a second. For us, really, seriously, for us
Yeah.
dummies that aren't, let me just take this back a second. Let me run you through
Sure.
just to see if I got this right. Before this whole thing, this NIL, name, image, and likeness thing came up, there was what they would call a no compensation rule in college
Right.
sports, right? Where an athlete could not be compensated in any form or fashion. They couldn't even get a meal. If someone went and bought them a meal.
You got it. Beers at a bar.
So now you got these college athletes who happen to be in college at the same time that the Olympics are taking place.
Yeah.
And the perfect example, I'm going to run this by you. I want to get your take, both of you, on this. There's the example of Olympic medalist, the swimmer, Katie Ledecky. I'm sure you know who Katie Ledecky is. I mean, she won a ton of medals. She decided
last Olympics, yeah.
The last Olympics, right? Summer Olympics.
Yep.
She decided to resign from competing for the Sanford swimming team, which she was a stud. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So as not to give up her Olympic endorsement deals. In other words, as you know, these athletes go to the Olympics. They're compensated, for all these endorsements. They make a crap load of money, which I am all for. If it was up to me, I would pay them even more. I think they deserve every single penny they get. But now all of a sudden, she can't be in college. She can't compete in that sport. Is that the way I'm reading? Now you tell me if that's not
amateur status.
Okay. Yeah. Is that not a form of slavery? I hate to use that word loosely, but that's almost like, whoa, I own you.
My problem is if you're going to open up NIL to these kids, and there is absolutely no reason Katie Ledecky should have to forfeit her amateur status and not go back to Stanford. Those are outside endorsements. There's no reason. No reason.
She's not representing her school there.
She's not representing Stanford. She's representing the U.S. And if these companies want to pay for her image and likeness, why the hell can't they?
So she was not under the no compensation rule. Is that it's always been, she wasn't allowed to do that. That's right.
Amateur status it would give up with the Olympics. But my whole point to you guys when we were off the air was, why are we one of the only countries that abide by that? Russia sure as hell doesn't. Russia sent over the Red Army against us on the Miracle on Ice. Those are professional hockey players. We're the only ones that used amateurs.
Well, Rick, my answer to that is if we want to follow Russia's lead on many things, we are really screwed, dude. You know what I'm saying? We're really screwed on that one. So if we're doing something opposite of what Russia's doing, I'm all for it.
I hear you. Okay. They need to get rid of that though for the Olympics. If they're going to open this can of worms in college with the NIL, no reason these kids can't get paid. They're the ones that actually deserve to get paid, in my opinion. I mean, you're the best of the best. You're bringing home medals and representing us. You need paid.
All right, so let's look at this from a parent's point of view now, so parents can understand that right now NIL, name, image, and likeness, right, means that a kid can go outside and if let's say they have a famous name, like give me a name of a college player now who's a stud. Give me a name.
Right now, who won the Heisman? I'm drawing blanks.
Paul,
here.
you have any?
God.
Well, how about Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end from Michigan this
Okay.
last year? Okay, him in
Hutchinson.
Ann Arbor,
Okay.
Michigan. Every business and their brother would probably pay him to represent their business.
Right. Okay.
Come do a car commercial for me, Aiden. Come do this. Come do that. So they draw up contracts, probably a 1-year deal. You have so many appearances you have to do for me, blah, blah, blah. No different than anything else. But now it's legal because he can use his name, image, and likeness any way he feels like it.
Right. So he can have his name on a shirt,
yes.
on a cap.
They can start. They're starting to do that now. This will be the first year, I think, coming up. This football season will be the ones with the jerseys with the names on them again. And not just jerseys of the year or whatever it was in number 1. I think that's what they had to go to for a long time.
All right, let me just throw in a disclaimer here, because as a former attorney, I'd throw in a disclaimer. I'm not making any claims because I don't know much about this. I'm just looking at this from a regular fan point of view. So right now, every state can dictate what their NIL laws are. So Florida can have different laws. That's the way I see it.
That's what I thought too.
Right, Paul?
I think they're trying to pass it uniformly, though. Even though it's state by state, I don't think they have a cap on it different in Ohio than it is from Florida. I'm not sure about that, but I thought they were just trying to go across the board on this, state by state.
Okay, well, here,
But then again, that gives one state the disadvantage. Like, say somebody from Missouri is a 5-star recruit and Mizzou doesn't do that. I'm just hypothetical. I don't know if they do or not. And then they decide to go to Ohio State or Michigan or whatever.
You got that 100% right. And actually, now that you said that, I think it is state by state, because Harbaugh was complaining about it in Michigan that it might even be university to university, even though it's not NCAA, because Harbaugh was complaining about that he can't even compete with Michigan State on these NILs. So something's going on. Yeah.
All right, let me give you this point of view, because this is the way I see it from a legal point of view. The NCAA basically controlled college sports, correct?
Yep.
They would dictate to every state. In other words, there was one law, and it was applied evenly to all the states. Am I correct?
You got that right. They were the end all be all. NCAA was its own entity.
Own entity. So, Paul, you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it is. Now, here's what happens. This is similar, and this is what they're using as an analogy. The Roe versus Wade case, the abortion case, where the Supreme Court basically said that states, remember, every state is a sovereign entity. They just belong to that's why it's called the United States.
Right.
So every state had the right to pass their own abortion. I'm not going to get into politics, but just as an analogy, every state would pass their own abortion laws. So in one state, say, well, you can abortion at any stage is illegal. Abortion through 3 months is illegal, trimester, whatever, all that. And then Roe versus Wade comes before the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said no. Every state cannot pass their own law. There's going to be one law. It's going to be the law of the nation, and they passed the law. So abortion was now illegal under the same terms for everybody. Okay? You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
This is the analogy. The NCAA has controlled college sports. Now they're losing their grip because these states are coming in. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to take this to the Supreme Court.
Oh, that's going to happen. Congress is already on it. Yeah.
And they're going to want the Supreme Court to rule that the NCAA can control NIL in every state. Does that make sense? But here's what happens. As you know, Roe versus Wade pretty soon is going to come up before the U.S. Supreme Court. And that's going to dictate basically NIL. Because if and when the Supreme Court throws out Roe versus Wade and says, no, now we're going to give back the power of abortion to each state, they're going to use that as the rationale for NIL. I didn't mean to get all legalese and whatever on you, but that's the rationale. You know what I'm saying?
Can you explain that to me, Paul?
A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand that. I know. I talk to people all the time. They tell me, well, this thing about abortion, why the problem? Because, and then I try to explain to them, that's just the rationale. And you apply it to this. Now, what's your take? Paul, I'm going to go to you first. What's your take? Should each state be able to to have their own NIL laws, or should the NCAA have a say?
I mean, if you're looking to keep an even playing field, then yeah, the NCAA should have the final say. But like I said before, if it's not fair to one university, if another university is going to do it, and then they would lose the 5-star whatever recruit, and then their program might suffer while University A over here is playing for the national championship. Interesting that I used A for Alabama.
Yeah, that was well done.
Very well done. I like
Can't
the way you
lose
did
with
that,
that.
Paul.
Wow.
Wow. You're
But
on the ball tonight.
he's 1,000% right, Ralph. It's going to completely change the playing field as far as recruiting. And you're never going to be able to change that unless you put a cap on it and say every university has to, or every player can go up to this much per year in NIL.
So they want to cap NIL.
Yes, you're going to have to. You're going to have to. Because if not, LA's UCLA, USC, all those universities in California are going to get 5 stars out the yin yang. It may even it up a little bit because Alabama may not be getting those 5 stars every time because how many businesses are down in Birmingham? I mean, seriously, how many are they going to be able to split between all those 5 stars? Because now it's not about winning or losing. It's about, like you said, we know there's a small percentage it goes to the pros, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is their payday. These 4 years are their payday.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They can make 7 digits a year and be multimillionaires before they graduate college.
But when you talk about caps, doesn't this go against everything this country was built on?
Yep.
Free enterprise.
But if you're gonna keep this evil, even let's say let's compare it to basketball because Gonzaga's got one of the best programs in the nation, right? But it's in the middle of no man's land, very small school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up in Washington in no man's land, right? How many NIL guys are at 5 stars are going to go, well, I can only make about $70,000 in NIL over there because there's only so many businesses. Where do you think they're going to end up going? They're going where the money is. You can't throw that kind of money in front of an 18-year-old and tell him to do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
They don't care about winning and losing at that point. Do you think these major league players do when they take these giant contracts with Jacksonville and these other teams? No. Neither would we. Neither would we. If I had a company that gave me a giant raise, where am I going?
Sure. The money.
I mean, it's unfair to tell these athletes be loyal and all that when we wouldn't.
Yeah.
If we had a raise and it was better for our family, we'd leave and go to another job.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in favor of a cap?
Yeah, because I think if you do it unlimited. Hey, look at what happened with the recruit from Ohio State this last year, the quarterback, Ewers. He went from Ohio State 1 year, got all his NIL money, and left and went to Texas. You don't think they're going to jump around like that? Yeah. I would.
Sure.
I would.
Yeah.
What dealership can pay me $1 million a year? I'll go over there. I don't care if the school sucks. I'll go over there.
Sure. Well, this is a tough one, though. I mean, think about that because you look at it from both sides, and both sides have a real good argument.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is,
it's scary because I think it changes a lot. Like me and Paul were talking about, and you hadn't recognized that kids sit out of bowl games now. It's already trickling to high school. You got these 5-star basketball players that sat out their senior years of high school this year because they knew they were already going somewhere they wanted to. They don't care about their team or high school anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to kill the high school game.
Well, shouldn't these universities be prohibited from signing underclassmen?
Sure should, but It doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen, of course.
These kids are committing as sophomores.
Yeah.
Freshmen.
Wow.
LeBron's son committed at 8th grade or whatever. They go after these stars' sons and get those verbal agreements. Yeah, it's a business, like you said, though. University knows what they get if they can get LeBron's son to come to their university, but he's not. He'll go to the NBA because LeBron's just going to buy the Cavs and play a year with them, and that's just what's going to happen. So,
wow. But
yeah, it's going to get disgusting in high school. I'm glad Bryce is almost through high school, and I'm not lying about that because it's going to get ugly.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
With the video game aspect of it, how does that work with NIL? Is it
It's a great question. I haven't even looked into that. I know O'Bannon got mad because they used the exact him.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't put his name on the back. They used the number, the whole nine. And he said, wait a minute. If you're going to use me, then I want some money out of this.
Is he suing?
He already did. He lost. This was years ago. This is what started all of this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he lost, but they said he was the reason why it is to where it is now, because he set the foundation for it.
Well, that was like Kurt Flood with the free agency. He started the whole free agency thing back in, I think 1967?
Yeah.
Because if you stop, and that leads us right into that. I wanted to touch base with you guys on that, because I know, Paul, you're a huge St. Louis fan, and you're really into baseball. And when you look at this free agent deal, I've got my take on free agency and these guaranteed contracts and all that. I'm not a big fan of these guaranteed contracts, but free agency, I'm all for, dude. 1967, when Kurt Flood said, hey, listen, you guys don't own me. He was a piece of property. Ball players back then were pieces of property. So here's something.
Aren't they still really? I mean,
really, they are.
Yeah. I mean, you're buying somebody.
Yeah.
But now, now they can jump around when their contract is up. They can jump around to another team.
Somebody else can buy them.
Yeah, but now back then, no. Either, and that's where remember the collusion and all that. Or say, if you don't play for us, nobody's gonna sign you. That's like this crap with Kaepernick now. Did you notice how nobody even approached this guy? There has to be collusion, right? When they get together.
Sure.
Of course, there has to
owners.
be.
Or you just got to be like, what's the pros and cons of my business if I bring him on this roster? You're going to get publicity, but is it going to be good or bad?
Good or bad.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, let's get into free agency for a second. Well, let's backtrack for a second on this likeness thing. So now you're telling me that the big name markets, the big schools, are going to have a huge advantage over the little schools.
Yeah, especially in big cities is what I'm thinking. I was thinking more the city size, to be honest with you. I mean, if you got rich cities and, even a New York school, Rutgers, something like that, it's going to start excelling. If you got businesses that thrive, that want to pay these kids, and you have these smaller, let's say these mid conference, these upstarts like a Wichita State back in the year in basketball and stuff like that. How are they going to keep landing these recruits? They're not going to see a 4 or 5 star for years if that's all it's going to be about.
All right, let me switch gears here for a second. I'm going to tie this back in. Yep. Are you guys, Paul, I'll start with you. Are you in favor of capping at the major league level, at the pro level? Like basketball has a cap.
A cap, yeah.
Are you in favor of a cap for, let's say, pro sports? Forget college.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I'm in favor for a cap. Yeah.
Why would you say that?
Just to prevent the one team from having the ability to buy all the great players. I know that wouldn't happen that they would buy all the great players, but to have the ability to have like an all-star at every position. I mean, that gives like Florida, Miami, they're already out. I mean, Tampa Bay, look at them. They don't have the big budget. They can't spend to the cap limit or whatever, but they're constantly having a good team.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes against your argument, though. I mean, from my point of view, that would go against your argument, because you take a team like Tampa Bay, they don't spend much money, and they're still in the hunt every year. How do they do that? They've got to be doing something right where these other teams don't. I don't think. Rick, what's your take? Do you think money can buy a championship?
I think it can, but I think over a long term, I think where problems come in, like the Yankees and teams like that buy them 1 year. 1 year, I'm going to gel this team in one. That's not how it works. I'm so sick of people saying, hey, well, they got all these, especially in football, it drives me nuts, because I'm like, wait a minute. So they got the quarterback who has 5 months to work with these guys and gel and bring home a Super Bowl. Is that what you're telling me? Stafford did, because he's that good. And the pieces were already in place anyways. And at the Rams, all they needed was a quarterback. Right. But baseball, it doesn't work like that. Number one, you have so many egos in that clubhouse That's sickening, dude. And if you have one that's bad, it'll destroy a team. It'll destroy a team. What I think Tampa Bay does right is they have great management and they probably have good clubhouse players. And me and you have talked about that before, Ralph, like Paul Casey that played, for the Reds for years and then with Detroit, and they called him the mayor because the guy had no business being in the bigs, but he was a great teammate and it goes a long way.
Sure.
When you got somebody in the clubhouse as a player that can dominate the clubhouse and be the manager in the clubhouse, goes a long way, dude. Goes a long way.
Well,
because these managers can't talk shit to these guys because these guys make more than them. How's a manager going to tell me what to do?
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. Well,
there's a line in a movie from you've seen The Miracle, haven't you?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a line in the movie when he's building his roster and first day of tryouts. I'm not looking for the best team. Oh wait, I'm not looking for the best players. I'm looking for the right players.
Yeah.
That was a great line, man. That was a great.
And the one about the name on the chest instead of the name on the back.
A hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
Yeah, I think that was great.
And teams have bought into that. My favorite manager of all time, Sparky Anderson. The Reds had 10 times the roster that the Tigers had when he came over and won it in the American League. But he put them together because they loved the dude. I mean, they loved the dude.
Yeah, but wasn't it different back then, Rick? I mean, the players didn't make that much money
and you could buy a
80s,
jersey. Right? Yeah, you could buy a jersey like me with Trammell and Whitaker. They never left. I mean, they started with the Tigers, ended with the Tigers. That don't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Period.
Right. Yeah.
So that's different because that's loyalty and that's love of a team. And that's, back then it was about loyalty and, stuff like that. Now it's not. You're right. It's about paychecks. And you're right.
So I asked Paul if he was in favor of guaranteed contracts. Was it guaranteed? No, cap.
No,
a cap, right?
Caps.
A cap.
And I'm with him. I agree with him. I do think there should be caps.
There should be caps, right?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know what would be fair. I wouldn't even know how to set that number. But when you got teams like the Royals versus teams like the Yankees, as far as bidding, again, it's tough for the little mid-market team to compete if you don't set a cap.
Yeah. Well, the question then is, and I know the answer to this, but basketball has a cap. Baseball doesn't have a cap.
I know.
They have a luxury tax.
They have a luxury tax, which is a totally different animal.
Yep.
All right. So of course, basketball, how many guys do you have on a team? 12 guys on each team?
It's a little more than that, but yeah, not that many.
Not that
16
many, right?
maybe. Yeah. Not at all.
So if you had a cap in baseball, how would that affect? I look at these ball players. How am I trying to say this? It just doesn't. I'm not sure I'd be in favor of a cap because don't these other teams, these small market teams, they get a cut of all the TV revenues. In other words, they try to balance this out in some way so that the small market team doesn't get screwed. They get a cut of all the TV revenues of everyone. I believe that's the way it is. You see, but now if you put a cap on, you're penalizing the big market teams. So the big market teams are going to say, wait, it doesn't even make sense to me. For example, I got to be honest with you. I don't know what the hell a team is doing in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has no business. Yeah. What do they get? 12,000 people per game? There's more people in a minor league, are you kidding me? So what is Tampa Bay?
The Yankees are playing there, then they'll sell out.
Yeah, it's just like everything. Right. Look at the Marlins. I don't know what last year was because I got away from but the Marlins, they were averaging they were on the bottom of the tier.
Attendance was terrible.
You've never seen their new stadium, the new Marlins stadium they built a few years ago? No,
I've seen it. Yeah,
you saw it, right? I went there once. I won't go back. Yeah. It's like a sardine can. Yeah, it's the ugliest thing you ever want to see. To me, it was like, what are you kidding? And it's in the part of town where everything about that is. So I always like to take the side of the players. Mm-hmm. This is why I would be against a cap, because these players, their lifespan in the sport is so short. They dedicate you don't get Rick, would you agree with me? You don't get to the pros, dude, unless you've been, since you were a knee high to a grasshopper.
Yeah. You put in your time.
right?
You've definitely put in your time to be a 0.5% of a percent. Yes.
But then again, you're getting paid in college
Yeah.
by way of education
Yeah.
to use
Ralph.
after your playing days are over.
Ralph. But if we're talking about baseball, that's not true because only 5 players get full rides in baseball. They don't have the money.
Yeah, I should have expected that from Paul.
Yes.
Good God Almighty.
And people say I don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Look, squirrel. Huh?
Good God Almighty. Oh God. All right.
You're just against it because you're a Yankees fan. Let's be honest here.
No, I'll tell you honestly. I'll tell you why I'm against it, because I truly believe that everybody has the right to go out. Look, if there's a market out there like Tampa Bay and they can't sustain that team, get the hell out of there, man. Look at all these.
I agree.
Look at St. Louis. They lost. What, their team went to where? Where the hell they go? Then they switched cities. Oakland Raiders. They're going back and forth. They're looking for
Cardinals,
cities that
Rams.
they're looking for
Cities
cities that'll support them. You see what I'm saying? But
wait a minute. St. Louis supported the Rams. We had better attendance than what they still have today out in Los Angeles.
Why did they leave then? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Kroenke, he wanted to be the first owner, and here's something. He wanted to be the first owner, or the owner that brings the team back to Los Angeles. Someone said here, and I don't know how true this is, that his plan all along was to, after the female owner died, buy the Rams, move them to L.A. When the Broncos went up for sale, sell the Rams, make a butt ton of money, and buy the Broncos. He's got all his teams over in Denver. Plus, he can get high.
Yeah. Well, I think back of the Baltimore Colts. We used to be my favorite team back in the day. And Baltimore Colts, that's like an institution, dude. And all of a sudden they pack up overnight and they leave to Indianapolis. Why would an owner do that? It's all about money, guys.
I don't know. You can ask the Cleveland Browns.
There you go.
Because that's what happened to them.
Yeah.
That's why the Baltimore Ravens exist.
There you go. Yeah. And now, because at the beginning of part 1, we talked about how everything is about money.
Mm-hmm. It is.
You see? And let's play devil's advocate here. Let's just
wait a minute. You're paying me to be here, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Gotta go. And all our guests on today's show receives a $50 gift card too.
$50? No, I was going to send them it was a $5 gift card.
$5. Yeah.
And it expires in like 24 hours,
That's right. That's right. Don't read the fine print.
Yeah, I think back and I'm thinking to myself, look at all these cities that have had these great teams, and then these guys have just packed up and left.
Yeah.
Why should, if this is the free enterprise and the home of the free, the brave, why should owners have to?
They shouldn't.
No,
they shouldn't. You're right. It's
owners don't owe the fans. It's a
no,
business.
they don't. No, they don't. If the fans aren't supporting the owners and making them money that they can get somewhere else, then they're going to move.
Yeah. Now, so that takes me back
to it's bullshit.
It's bullshit, right? But listen, that's the way it is.
From a fan's point of view. Yes, it's not jealous from a business point of view. It's smart.
That's smart. Now use that same analogy that you just used, that same line of thinking with players. Why shouldn't players have the right to jump from team to team if someone's going to pay more?
I've never said they shouldn't. I've never been that selfish, dude, because it's exactly every time somebody yells that at me, I go, you're getting a raise by about 20%, a company across town, same position. What are you doing? If you say you're staying loyal to that company, then obviously you don't love your family because you don't want to better up. So that's on you.
Yeah.
Just put it in brass tat. That easy of a comparison, that should be game over on the argument. It is a job for them. This is their livelihoods. They're getting a raise to leave. They're leaving. It's that simple.
You're absolutely right. I agree. I want to talk about one more thing before we leave. I want to talk about actually 2 more things. Contracts. I've made some notes here. These professional contracts are so lucrative nowadays.
Did you hear that? Did that come through?
Time out. Paul's in Ukraine.
What the hell? Did I miss something?
Paul's got the arches falling on his house somewhere.
I didn't hear anything. What happened?
I think they were moving a chair upstairs.
Oh, I didn't even hear.
I thought it was in my house. I was like, wait a minute. All right. Phew. I saw you look. I was like, all right, good. It's his. All right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Are you sure you're not near Ukraine?
Hey, no shit. God.
Could be.
Poor people,
Oh,
man.
that is a nightmare over there. God.
Yeah.
I feel.
I want to talk about two things.
Yeah.
I want to get your take on this. Guaranteed contracts in the pros. Like these guys that sign, 5, 6, 7, 10-year contracts, guaranteed. What's your feeling on that, Paul?
If they're willing to give it, take it. I mean, he could sign a contract the next day, get hit by a car, blow a knee out, run into first base. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea.
Why would owners nowadays? That's from a player's point of view. I agree. Why would an owner give someone a 10-year guarantee? Let's say someone's 28 years old, 29 years old, and give him a 10-year contract through 38. Most major league players now at 38, they're not producing.
They're washed up.
That's the paying for what they did prior to that contract.
Exactly.
I mean, look at that was Albert Pujols going to the Angels.
Yep.
I mean, look at
Miggy right now with Detroit. Yep.
Yeah.
What about the incentive though from a ball player? If you get a 10-year contract and no matter what the hell you do, who is that lefty with the Orioles? Chris, what's his name? The guy that's a total wash now.
It was a Zito.
No. The first baseman for the Baltimore Orioles, Chris.
The power hitter. Oh,
yeah,
God,
what's his name?
Oh. Yes, I know who you're talking about. He's a nobody now.
This guy, listen, before he got that contract, he was ripping these baseballs apart. He gets a guaranteed contract. This guy can't hit. My 12-year-old granddaughter could strike this guy out.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I agree. He fell off and first off, why is he staying with Baltimore? Because they gave him guaranteed money. I get why the owners are doing it because they want to lock him up.
Well, who the hell wants him?
Nobody now, but at the time you did because you wanted that name. You wanted that name to fill seats, and he was hitting bombs.
He was.
But I get what you're saying. It's a catch-22. You're paying that much money over 10 years, hoping that it can be anything close to what he was so you can keep him on your roster and sell seats. Problem is, when you do that, they have no incentive, and they go down a freaking rabbit hole. They turn to shit because they don't work hard anymore. They got the money.
Well, this goes back to the conversation you were having with Jim that one day about people not hustling anymore.
Yep, they don't.
That when a ball is hit, half of these guys are just standing around. They don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Whereas opposed to the Cuban players, remember we talked about that.
Yep.
For those of you
the phantom no ball infield. Yeah.
So for those of you that are watching this that haven't seen from my journey to the Olympics, the Jim Mancilla story, I think it was part 2 where he talks about Cuban baseball. It's an eye opener.
Yes.
Because these guys are moving. He would say, Rick, remember what he said about a ball's hit? Explain that.
Well, they take infield with no ball first and foremost, so they do phantom infield. But even the outfielders were moving on all infield plays on everything because everybody should be moving on the baseball diamond on every play. Period. You have a position, you have an assignment on every ball hit. Go to the major leagues and see if you see that one time in a game once.
Dude, please don't even get me started. And by the way, when we did. Paul, we did a segment with Jim Mancilla, which I know is going to be on your show. I think you're going to want to interview him. You mentioned something about the Olympic baseball coach.
Yeah, got some stories.
Yeah, he's got some great. And some stuff that if you're watching this, you're going to want to stay tuned to because he didn't even touch upon not even 1/100th of the stories that he has. He's going to be coming back. He's going to be a regular on this show. I lost my train of thought. Because I know I was going
running out ground balls.
Well, here's what he would say that his jaw would drop open because in Cuban baseball, a ball is hit somewhere, anywhere. Every player is moving.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did the segment on choosing our baseball teams, Rick, I said the Yankees will never win with Gary Sanchez behind the plate.
Yeah.
Will never win.
Who did they just trade?
He was traded today.
Ah,
He was traded today.
there
I
you
saw
go.
that come across, and you were the first person I thought of.
Did you? Yeah. No, I mean that. I said, this guy is so lazy. You would see him. This guy wouldn't. This is why I chose Derek Jeter as my all-time. If I had to build
Sure.
a baseball team around someone, Derek Jeter. He wasn't the greatest defensive player. He wasn't, but he was the smartest ball player and the biggest hustler I've ever seen in my life.
Mhm.
The guy was just, and going to your point, Rick,
Yep, he's
He
a
was-
rah-rah guy,
That's
and he's
right.
a clubhouse guy.
a
Yep.
clubhouse guy, dude. They loved him. They adored him as teammates. And God,
Yep.
how many teammates went through his locker room throughout the years?
Shit tons. Yeah.
And they
For
all
him
loved him.
for him to keep all those prima donnas in order, I'm serious. That's not a slight. That's tough to do when you got that much money sitting in a clubhouse. It's tough to do.
So if I was an owner, I wouldn't give a guaranteed contract. You want to prove yourself to me. You want to prove yourself to me. Back in the Mickey Mantle days of yoga, they hadn't any of that crap. These guys had to go out there year to year, and they had incentives. If they didn't hit a certain number of home runs, that's why they played their asses off. That's why Mickey Mantle would play every game. They would take an hour to bandage both his knees. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Read the Mickey Mantle story.
And back then, even before them, they had second jobs. They weren't making that kind of money back then.
That's right. That's right. So I want to touch upon one more thing before we sign off, and that's on disciplinary fines. The way ball players nowadays, I think ball players are babied nowadays. They're a bunch of idiots. Not all of them, of course, but I'm saying there's some. We hold these people out to be heroes to our kids, and you got some nasty guys out there. I mean, and they're doing all. I'll give you an example. I'll give this back to you guys. You guys can comment on it. You know, Pete Rose did what he did with the gambling thing. He was banned from baseball. That was how long ago? 30 years ago, right?
More than that. What are we, 22? So
it was in the 70s, right?
Early 80s. Yeah.
Or in the 80s, yeah.
Late
early
70s,
80s.
early 80s, I thought, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Nowadays, people do all kinds of shit in sports. Nothing happens to them. The Houston Astros.
Perfect example. I got one for you right now. Calvin Ridley's only going to sit out 1 year, but he bet on football on his own team. Why is he not banned?
I didn't hear about that. Tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. Calvin Ridley.
Who's Calvin Ridley?
He's a slot receiver for the Falcons, right? I'd call him a slot, isn't he? A 2, a 3, somewhere in there. Yeah. But he just got busted. He was injured. I think he was injured. He wasn't playing in the game, but he was injured and betting on the Falcons. And he got drilled, and they only gave him a 1-year suspension. To me, that's Pete Rose. He should be gone. So if you're going to hold one person accountable, you better hold everybody to that standard.
Unless they were looking at it that he was injured the whole time and couldn't.
Yeah, couldn't influence the game. Yeah.
That could be it. But I mean, Rose was the manager at the time.
Exactly. It wasn't like he was playing. He didn't make any moves that you went, holy shit, he's throwing this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there should be because I'm thinking about the Astros when they cheated that sign stealing deal.
Yeah, that's the banging on the trash can.
Trash cans. Mm-hmm. And they found out that it was, it was true. And this guy Altuve.
That's shady. I don't like that. I don't mind if catchers, let's say I hit a double and I'm on second and the catcher isn't smart enough to change up his cadence.
Oh, yeah.
Or his signs,
but that's something different.
I'll steal that all day.
But Rick, that's something different.
That's totally different.
No,
they were looking through cameras at the catcher with people with nobody on and banging that drum.
That's right.
Or banging the trash can to give them the signs. That's just Bush League, man. Yeah. You're not good enough to hit. And I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I'll never look at them the same. And I had a lot of respect for Altuve, tons. And I love Verlander. So I won't look at them the same. They'll always be cheaters to me at this point.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They got a $5 million fine, which is like $5 for you and I.
Right.
Yeah, slapping the wrist. Don't do that. Yeah. What kind of message are we sending to our kids?
None. That should have been a year of postseason ban, something heavy on that. Shouldn't have been a $5 million fine. Should have been you're ineligible for the playoffs.
They should have taken that damn trophy and given it. Who the hell they play in the finals or what was?
Who did they beat?
Wasn't it Atlanta or the Dodgers?
The Dodgers.
I thought it was the Dodgers. Yeah.
You see how nobody remembers and nobody gives a shit?
Yeah.
Oh, seriously.
Sad, I know.
Didn't they play when the Dodgers won the World Series? Didn't they beat Houston in the COVID series?
Yes, I'm almost sure they did.
The
They beat
Dodgers
Houston.
definitely. Maybe it was Freeman and the Braves. You might be right, Paul, on the
Yeah.
scandalous one, on the one they got caught. Might have been the Braves.
But the whole point
don't
is
know.
that there's different standards. They used it, the standards have been lowered and lowered and lowered and lowered every year.
Sure.
It's like the steroid thing.
Yeah, you ban Pete Rose, but you don't ban what? Women beaters? You don't ban them from the league? I mean, come on. What are we teaching our kids, especially our sons?
Exactly.
This is why, folks, and I'll end with this. You guys can then have your closing. This is why a few years ago, I walked away from pro sports. I just walked away from pro sports. It was making me sick to my stomach. And not because I'm better than anybody. I got to a point where I said, these people, they're insane.
They are.
That thing with the deflated ball with Brady, that was proven. They didn't do anything. What the hell did they do?
Yeah, but that's a joke. They just went after Brady because every quarterback does that, and they admitted to it. Every quarterback has talked about that. Okay. They just wanted a piece of Brady and they wanted a piece of Belichick. That's all that is.
And you may be right. I don't know anything about it. All I know is that if you
they didn't do shit.
You can't. You got to have the same standards for everybody. And if it's just like a kid. You give him something and he wants more, and you give him more, and he wants more, and you just let him get away with all kinds of shit. You can't do that.
I agree.
Bunch of spoiled.
I agree. They're idiots. I mean, but we've done this to them.
Yeah.
That's my whole point. We've done this to them since they were 6, 7, 8 years old. You're the best thing that's ever happened through high school. You're a god in high school. Now you're going to get all these millions of dollars and you're 19, 20 years old. What do you think they're going to do? We're idiots. We're the ones doing it.
Yeah.
They've had no rules. They've had no structure. They've been told they're the shit their whole lives. Nobody keeps them balanced or in check.
Yeah. And I'm going to bring it back to that one point that you mentioned when we did that segment, that baseball segment. Rick said something that just made so much sense on this steroid thing in baseball. He said baseball brought it upon themselves because they allowed all that shit to have the fans come back.
You got it.
And they opened up that Pandora's box, and now they don't know what the hell to do.
That's it. They had to have it. They wanted the viewership.
Yeah.
They were losing viewers, so they needed that Sosa, McGuire, Canseco kind of thing. So they didn't give a shit about steroids at that point. They didn't even test for it. They didn't care. Then all of a sudden it blew up in their face because Canseco actually was telling the truth from day one. They didn't want to admit that, but.
All right, so let's close this out. I want to get your guys' take. Let's close this out with the lockout and the end of the lockout. Yeah. Why this lockout happened, and what's your take on the lockout, Paul?
Just billionaires arguing with millionaires to get more money. I mean,
that's exactly right.
I mean, yeah, it's for the younger players coming up, it's better to make $750,000 than it is to make $500,000. I mean. The players of today are protecting the players of tomorrow. It just hurts the fans. And, what are they going to do now when fans say, you know what, I'm not going to go to a game. These guys are going to argue about money. I'm going to keep my money and save $200-$300 and not take my family to games. What are they going to do? Is it going to be another steroid year or what? But, it's back. I mean, you can turn on ESPN or whatever and listen to spring training and hear the pop of the glove and the crack of the bat, and it's all good now.
And that's my point. I'll talk. What about you, Rick? What's your take on that?
My take on MLB is they better wake the hell up. They keep pushing us like this because they've done it now, 4 times? I mean, I'll tell you what, last time they pulled this shit, NASCAR took them over. You know that as the number 3 basic sport. Well, number 4, because NHL still was taking over. NHL pulled this shit a long time ago. And you see NHL's never recovered from that, to be completely honest. Right. The NHL used to be great. ESPN had 2 nights of it with Tom Mees and all these guys. Then they pulled a little, we're going to hold out for more money bullshit. And people like me I'm done with you, dude. I don't give a shit if you want another $250,000 to play a sport. I'd give my left arm to fucking make $500,000 to play. So we don't relate to you. So stop doing it. You know, sometimes they're so out of touch with what we want as a fan. Guess what? If we don't support you, brother, you're done. So be very careful how you keep slighting us. We get a little tired of, like he said, elitists playing. Well, it's another quarter for me. It's another, man, shut up. Play the game. If you're good enough, you'll get the extra $250 in a year or two. Trust me. I'll be a bullpen catcher for $500,000 all day. All day.
Sign me. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
And I can't squat anymore.
I got the best fucking seats in the house, and I get to catch a major league pitcher. Cool.
And you're
I'm
making $3/4 of $500,000.
Woo,
Now it's
right.
$3/4,
Yeah,
right?
sign my
$3/4
ass up. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
See, my take is a little bit different on that. No matter what they do, I call it sports amnesia. Fans are always going to come back. There's always going to be some that'll drop out, but for the most part, so baseball won't make 16 million.
No, I get what you're saying.
They'll make 13. You think they give a shit? You know, people will. It's just part of our culture, guys.
I know.
No matter.
It's sad because we're not disciplined enough to unite as a fan base and go enough's enough. It's what I told my Lions fans. I go, you know what? You're never going to get better there because you'll never force the Fords to sell you because you keep supporting them. Yeah. All they give a shit about is that bottom line in their bank account. They don't care about you. Yeah. They don't. Mm-hmm. So they didn't care about Barry. They didn't care about Calvin. They didn't care about Stafford. So they sure as hell don't care about us. So until you unite and hit them where it hurts, they're going to keep doing it. You're right.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I just, I think it was yesterday, I finished recording for another show where I talk about, you know, exactly that we need to take control of everything. And the entertainment industry is just, it eats us alive. Take the average family, what it costs an average family to go to a ball game nowadays.
Paul's right.
People,
exactly
right?
What
Paul
he was talking about $300 easy.
No, and no, I've got the numbers. It's much more than that. If I hit you with the numbers now, it would surprise you. You know, people get into debt, credit card debt, going to these stadiums and, you know, to take their family and you know, bankruptcies. And Paul, I'm not just saying this. People get into thousands and thousands of dollars in debt to go and support their teams. You see, and these teams, they don't give a shit about them because there's always people that are going to come back.
Right.
So this thing that I recorded, I talked about, it's time we did something about it. And the only way to get back at these people is to just hit them where it hurts, hit them in the greenbacks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You know, if we were all to take a break 1 year, just 1 year, can you imagine this for a second? That everybody would take 1 year break from attending any major sports. Mm-hmm. Are you shitting me? They would go nuts.
They would go nuts.
They wouldn't know what to do.
The COVID stuff. I mean, they couldn't have fans in the stands, and you know
they still did their shit and television. Well, look,
but they came back and said, "Oh, it's just not the same with all the fans here, with all the beautiful fans screaming for us and everything."
But I heard the numbers on that. They still they could have no baseball for like. If they had no baseball this year, no season period, they're still making money is what they said.
Yeah, exactly.
They did a study on that because they don't have to pay the employees. They don't have to pay the players, all that shit. They're still making money. Sure. Because their franchise still increases in value per year. So it's insane to think that they don't give a shit about us.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Watch. And when they come back this year, those ticket prices are going to be like $30 higher than what they were last year because they're trying to make up for the COVID year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. We ain't got that money. Piss off.
I love it, dude. I love it. Okay, guys. So Rick, I'm going to hand this over to you. Paul, I wanted to thank you for coming on. We're going to be doing a lot more of this stuff.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a real pleasure. We're going to be heading out to St. Louis, hopefully. Well, this year's not going to be able to, but next year we want to plan on going out there to spend some time, especially in spring training. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Where are they at? They down in Florida too?
They're down in Jupiter.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Jupiter's only like an hour and a half away from me. That would be freaking awesome.
Well, Florida is the hub for the spring training, man. My Tigers are down there in Lakeland. Everybody's down there.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's a good thing. You know, for you viewers, if you're watching this, we have begun to plan the first annual Life Sports Music and Beer annual bash. And what we're trying to do is, and I was I don't know, if, Paul, if I talked to you about this, but I was going to anyway, is plan something to get, a bunch of rooms, by the water. This would be great near spring training where we could all go and have all the families come down with the kids and everything. And, I'll talk to my grandkids and they got boats and you guys can go out fishing and the kids can go out, fishing and skiing and all that kind of stuff. And, just bring everybody together. And if any of you viewers want to take part in it, I mean, we're going to hopefully open this thing up so we can spend,
Ralph's buying.
I'll buy. Right. Yeah. I don't care. Dude, when you get my age, it's, you're going 6 feet under. It doesn't matter, dude. The money just doesn't matter. I'm serious. I was talking to Jim Mansell.
Paul, we got to keep reminding him who we are, though, before that day comes, because he'll forget. With Safe Space, Ralph, my name is Rick, also known as Vanilla Gorilla. You knew me. I just got to keep reminding you, Grandpa.
Excuse me?
I'll bring the name tags. My name is.
Yes.
That's right. We got to have name tags and shit like
yes.
that. Anyway, so Paul, I thank you for that. We're gonna talk about all that and start planning that. Now's the time to start planning it 1 year in advance. Rick, I'm gonna hand this over to you. You sign us off, buddy. It's always good to talk with you.
All right. Well, guys, again, this was a blast. Paul, very nice meeting you, brother. We will definitely do this again. NIL, just a conclusion on it. I do believe these players need compensated for what they do for these universities. Don't get me wrong on that. When I say that, I'm just scared of where this is going to go with the younger levels and the high school area. But anyways, for myself, Rick, the Vanilla Gorilla, Wreck-It Ralph, I'm still going to call him that, Ralph, and Mr. Paul, we are signing off for now. Life, sports, music, and beer. Take care, folks.
We hope you enjoyed our series on sports and how money can affect not only the love of sports, but more importantly, the effect it can have on your children's lives. If you found this series helpful, you'd like to comment on it, or if you disagree with all or any part of it, we welcome you to reach out to us by emailing us with your comments. We welcome all points of view. And if you or someone you know would like to appear on our show, well, we'd love to have you. All you have to do is click on the link below in the description area and fill out a short form, and we'll take it from there. And remember, there's no story that's not worth telling. We hope to see you soon.
On behalf of everyone from Life, Sports, Music, and Beer, we thank you for tuning in. If you've got that story to tell, comment below. Smash that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell so you can hear other amazing stories.